Hey there, I am Stacy Hoch. I wanted to jump on really quickly and talk to you about emotionality, how to deal with your children's emotions or other people's emotions specifically, but also emotional abuse, which I see happen so often. And emotional abuse is worse than physical abuse, specifically in terms of, for the most part, if you have somebody who's being physically abused, and their abuser challenges them and provokes them to fight back, there is a sense of selfhood there. But most of the time, if you say you're only being physically abused, which I don't know how often this really happens, but if you are only being physically abused and your abuser isn't telling you that you are a total piece of shit and you deserve nothing, and if your abuser isn't making you feel invisible, you're going to feel provoked into a sense of power. Whereas the emotional abuse that comes from somebody who's being emotionally abusive to you makes you feel in your physical victimhood like you will never get out. So if that didn't make sense, my point is, if you are being physically abused and you have somebody telling you are a total piece of shit and that you have no right to fight back and that you are disgusting and that nobody else is going to want you and yada, yada, yada. It's a very different vibration to hold than being physically abused with somebody who's provocative and who makes you address your sense of self. So one makes you invisible and feel powerless, and the other makes you feel powerless but with a sense of power, if that makes sense. So physical abuse, in my opinion, should never happen. But emotional abuse is, first of all, it's the root of physical abuse. But emotional abuse is insidious, and good-meaning people get away with it all of the time. And it's because nobody knew how to deal with our emotions. We don't deal with our emotions. I work with people every single day who can't even identify their own emotions because they've just watched their life as a projection screen. They've never gotten through to the other side of the glass. And I remember what that was like, but those feelings that we displace in ourselves will inevitably show up in our children, first and foremost. We have to understand that. And then we will project onto our children that it's not acceptable for them to have emotions, because how dare they get away with expressing emotions. We never got to do that, and because we never got to do that, that signifies a rejected part of us, or what we perceive as a weakness in us, and they're not allowed to display it because, for God forbid, they have it easier and better than we do by being allowed to express their emotions. We subconsciously don't even know that we do that to our kids, but we're definitely saying, you have it way better than I did on some subconscious level, and you're going to have to just have it half shitty because, how dare you expect to have a perfect life? And a prime example of this is the other day I overheard a dad, this kid was totally going to lose his shit, and the dad said, "Stop crying." And the kid immediately, it was energetically, he sucked it up, he went invisible. And that is, you might say it's not abusive, and I get it. I have 3 kids, it's a pain in the ass, it's super annoying, and it's also manipulative at minimum, okay? We grow up feeling dissociated from a living situation. And then there's mass shootings because people look at life as if they are alone in it, and that it is a projection screen for their own inferiorities, and then they have to feel powerful over it, so they retaliate back. We are raised in an isolated and non-intimate way because nobody's allowing space for anybody else's actual experiences and emotions. And this starts with parents and children. And so many parents will emotionally, it's one thing to guide your child and say, this might be best for you, but it's another to manipulate them into being a mold for your own desires. And that right there is where we first create a cognitive dissonance and say, I'm not the person that I am supposed to be because my authority figure wants me to be this person, and I'm not that person. So inevitably we feel inauthentic. And on top of that, we're being told that our emotions don't matter, or that their emotions specifically, maybe ours, it's not that ours don't matter, but theirs are more important and theirs are more valid and their experiences is more valid because they've been, you know, whatever, through it. So as an authority figure to people, we're raising souls. We're not raising, like, we're animals for sure, but we are raising people to be conscious or unconscious. And if we blindly and unconsciously negate our children's experiences for the sake of our own, and I get it, like, it's easy. I'm still a breastfeeding mom. I woke up this morning and she still wakes up in the middle of the night feeling like my own needs weren't met, and it would be so easy for me to get all sorts of in my head and be like, well, you know what, fuck this. She doesn't deserve that. She doesn't deserve all of this good. So, like, I'm just going to be irritable because I'm not getting my needs met. It would be very easy for me to do that and have my own emotionality. But my point is that as parents, most of the time, our kids are feeling our shit. So to nurture my daughter at a time when I feel like I've given everything, to nurture her and give her what she wants is actually remothering and nurturing myself. So we project onto our children almost this, like, stop having emotions, stop doing that thing, because we've been forced to stop doing that thing for so long. And that's the very thing that makes us inauthentic. That's the very thing that cuts off our life flow. And it's the absolute hands down number one thing that cuts off our connections to our children and their connections to themselves. And we can say it is not emotional abuse to invalidate somebody else by telling them that their experience is false, by telling them not to have the emotions that they're having. We can say that that's not abusive. But the truth is, if we dig deep enough as parents, that is only a reflection of every time that somebody else did that to us, and we don't know how to deal with the fact that we never got over that need. We never got that need met. So when it stares at us in the face of our children, we go, I don't know how to meet that need. So please don't have that emotion, because what the fuck? I don't know how to handle that. And that shuts them down. It shuts you down because you're already shut down. And what I really want to drive home is that our kids are our way showers, and their emotions are very likely a shadow reflection of our own, the ones that we're not willing to look at in ourselves. And on top of that, no kid's going to act out emotionally, super emotionally, unless the emotion wasn't heard in the first place. So if you have a kid who's constantly whining, and they go through stages, because as parents, we're like, dude, okay, I'm not going to listen because you're fine. But those times that they're constantly whining, you guys can meet Raya, she's coming up on the bed, is a direct reflection of us on the inside constantly whining. And then we're like, why is this kid always whining? Why is this kid always whining? And if we just took the time to address, like, okay, hey, what do you need, honey? Like, what are you actually, you just need a hug? You just need me to be here because I'm fucking off in outer space in my head and not present to you? That is the point of this. So many parents go through this idea of, their kids are separate from them emotionally, and their kids have to be shut down emotionally. And that's only because they had to do that. And then they somehow rope their kids into being enmeshed with that pattern of shutting down emotionally in order to feel like they belong or to get their needs met. And that's the root of inauthenticity and disconnection. So let your kids teach you what's actually going on inside of you that you're not willing to look at right now. And just be open. Don't be hard on yourself about it, but really be like open to the idea that your kid who is experiencing emotions that are uncomfortable for you is doing that for you, and it's only uncomfortable because you haven't yet met that need, so you feel insecure about being able to meet it in them. And when you meet it in you, by allowing yourself to recognize this, because you've likely always pushed away emotions instead of dealing with them, and when we do that, they just keep showing up and showing up and showing up in various forms. Just be open to what your kids are teaching you today, okay? It's good to be here with you. Blessings. Bye.